Hey there, welcome to the Maintenance Mindset. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the swimming pool, but not in how to take care of it. We're actually going to look at it from a view of the mindset of a swimming pool. So here's a word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored today by AppWork. AppWork is much more than maintenance. In addition to being one of our founding sponsors, AppWork is advanced business intelligence. Streamline maintenance workflows and keep an eye on the leaderboard as your service teams enjoy the gamification of maintenance. Visit appworkco.com and transform your productivity today. Fantastic. Thanks again for joining me today. And what I'd like to do is talk about our swimming pool. Right now it is summer. Memorial Day just happened. Our properties are busy. In addition to the increase in turns, to the increase in service requests, especially air conditioning, the swimming pool gets a lot of use. Residents are in there, kids are playing around. There's a lot more people sitting in the lounge chairs and using that amenity space. In addition, it becomes a central part of what, it's my understanding, is the tour path. Now, the actual tour process, I'm going to leave up to more knowledgeable people than myself to talk about. People like, Ronald with Rooms for Ronald and Mary Gwynn on the People Experience. But what I'm interested in talking about today is the swimming pool itself and the mindset that it's a good idea for us as property management professionals to have regarding that particular amenity. If I remember correctly, up until 2018, the number one requested amenity on our properties for residents shopping for new places to live was a swimming pool. I know that today, going through all of the interwebs and Lord Google and all of the various search engine terminologies, when people go to look for a property, one of the most commonly searched terms is a swimming pool. This particular amenity has a huge fascination. I can remember being on site, walking past residents that in the middle of the summer, they would open up the front door to their apartment and send the kids right directly to the swimming pool area. And then mom and dad would catch up to go run after them because try and hold the kids back from the swimming pool. Not only that, it is a central part of the tour. It is a wonderful attractant. And I'd like to talk today a little bit about why I think that is and what we can do because of it. So, the tour path and touring, it's my understanding that that is all based on first impressions. Somebody's interested in coming to live at our property, or maybe they're not even interested, they're just curious, meaning they need a new place to live, and this is our opportunity in today's day and age to try and persuade them that our particular community is the place they should decide to live at. If you're curious about just how important the swimming pool is, go to any internet search, any browser search engine that would discuss finding an apartment place. Go to any of the businesses, the apps, the locator services, and pull up any given web page. If that community has a swimming pool, if I were a betting man, would put down money that they're featured prominently on that web page or the app search or whatever method you're using is a picture of the swimming pool. Don't those pictures look great? Aren't they inviting? I mean, it took laundry to be the amenity that knocked swimming pool out of number one as the most desired amenity on the properties. In-house washers and dryers. That today, at least the last chart I saw, still ranks as the number one most desired amenity. But every chart I've seen, a swimming pool is in the top 5 most desired amenities on our properties or on our communities. So what this means for us is that we have to take care of our swimming pool. So why? Why do we have to take care of our swimming pool? Well, I firmly believe that the swimming pool is an excellent indicator for how well the maintenance operation is performed at a given community. I'm convinced that with experience, we can drive past the pool and already have a good sense of how well the maintenance team is operating at a given property. And let me explain why, because I think that's critical. A swimming pool requires one thing in order for it to continue looking good throughout the entire season. And that one thing is the same item, the same skill, the same perspective that a successful maintenance team needs at a property to remain successful. And that one item is consistency. In order to maintain a swimming pool, it is an everyday occurrence. That means that there has got to be time set aside for somebody, whether it's the maintenance team, somebody from the office, or a vendor, to come out and do what is required for that swimming pool to do what it's needed. I mean, I would actually be curious to know if there's a survey somewhere that shows how many new leases are acquired or lost by a good-looking or a poor-looking swimming pool. That's probably a question for somebody in marketing or on the leasing team. I just know when I drive onto a property, and if I gaze over at the swimming pool and drive past and it doesn't look right, if that doesn't look right, what else is the issues? I mean, really and truly, this begins with a focus or a reality on safety. I mean, I don't think that I have to go too much more into depth on just how important it is for us to keep our swimming pool up from a safety and liability aspect. Beyond the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, they state that under 4 years old, the number one cause of death is drowning. Under 14, it moves to number 2, with the number one cause of death being accidents. But if we take those two things and put them together on the microcosm that is our properties, I think it's easy to make the statement that under 14 years old on an apartment community, number one cause of death is drowning. And what that means is we have got to ensure that our swimming pool is kept and maintained in a safe way. That requires more than just our maintenance team. Because if we're stating, and I am, that maintaining a swimming pool is a measurement of consistency, that means that it can't only be worried about or be concerned as a one-time per day event. It's an ongoing thing. And a key example in point is the entrances to our swimming pool area. Based on those numbers, number one cause of death is drowning under 4 years old. That's why it is so critically important that we pay attention to our swimming pool entrances, the gates, the doors, whatever method we use to restrict access to our swimming pool area. It is required in most state codes that it be self-closing and self-latching always. Now, the description of that follows as follows. Anytime that gate or entrance is opened at all, I mean, if you open it a half an inch and you release that gate or you release that entrance, are the gate closing completely? In other words, if I open it and let go, it needs to actually latch, and not occasionally, all the time. And does that mean that I actually have to walk up to it and jiggle it a little bit in order to get it to the latch to engage? If so, then that gate is not compliant and it must be locked. That door must always be self-closing and self-latching. And if that gate or entrance is failing to self-close and self-latch, and that means I have to lock it and render that gate inoperable, and if that's the only one to the swimming pool area, guess what that means? Pool's closed. I know. From a leasing standpoint, that's one of the worst things that can happen, is closing down the pool. Again, it reinforces the need for us to pay attention to what's going on in our swimming pool area. I mean, not only that, we have got to be aware of what's going on in our swimming pools. Getting beyond the entrance or the gate, if our pool doesn't require having a lifeguard or we don't provide a lifeguard, what happens when somebody, a member of our team, walks past the swimming pool and sees a resident flagrantly breaking safety rules codes? And what I'm getting at here is particularly the life ring. You know, that life ring, which is attached to a rope that needs to be able to be thrown in a situation where somebody is drowning or attempting to drown, for that instance. If that life ring is not where it's supposed to be, which is in ready access in a specific location, if it's not there, is it a piece of life safety equipment or is it a toy? I know. You talk to kids, and that huge life ring makes a fantastic GI Joe base to go attack Cobra in the middle of the water, or it makes a fantastic Barbie playhouse pad with a swimming pool in the middle of it. I get it. It's a great thing for our residents and their kids to play with, but it's not a toy. It's a piece of safety equipment. Along those same lines, what about the shepherd's crook? The shepherd's crook, that's that long pole that's got the thing on the end that's made to be, if somebody happens to be floating inside in the water, this is made to where you can grab and place it underneath their arms to pull them over to the side so that you can render aid. That is required to be at every single swimming pool. Do me a favor, though. When we go out and verify that this is present, look at the bolts that actually are connecting the hook to that rod, to the pole that it's attached to. Quite frequently, it is attached using wing nuts. Do yourself a favor, and if it's attached using wing nuts, reverse them on the outside of the hook. Even better is go to your local box store and get a couple of what are called carriage bolts. They're bolts that are rounded off on both sides. The reason being, if you've got those the wing nuts on the inside and you go to use that on somebody who needs help or aid getting to the side of the pool, you're going to end up ripping their arm and their chest up trying to grab them over to the side, which, okay, arguably that may be the least of their worries, but still, it's a simple thing for us to do to help, and does prove the fact that details matter. After this word from our sponsor, let's talk some more about what kind of details can matter and how we can implement them going forward. Our sponsor for today is AppWork. Best known for exceptional maintenance workflow management, AppWork offers so much more. Optimize operations with its advanced business intelligence that turns data into strategy. Simplify your operations with AppWork's intuitive platform. Service team members love the gamification of maintenance workflows and leaderboards. This makes everyday tasks a competition to be number one. From project management to team communication, AppWork has you covered. Visit appworkco.com today. Okay, the types of details that we have in and around our swimming pool, they do begin with that discussion of curb appeal. I mean, the furniture and the garbage cans and possibly the barbecue area or the volleyball court or the sand pit or whatever else we've got going on that's nearby our swimming pool, we need to take care of that. We can't just ignore it. And we have to do something with it, because if we don't, nobody's going to. Our residents see it every day. And I guarantee if we're not seeing it, they are. And if it's got such a huge impression on our residents to get them to lease in the first place, what is the thing that we're telling our residents about renewing? If we're not going to take care of what is required on a daily basis, like emptying the trash or even emptying out the skimmer baskets, the baskets that are down inside the skimmers, if we're not doing those things, what are we not doing in our residence apartments or in our buildings in order to keep them working as best as they can? You know, I actually was walking a property in Michigan here a few months ago, and I happened to notice, even though nobody was in the pool, that around the deck on the outside of the property was a bunch of white spots. Looked almost as if somebody had taken white paint, splashed it, splotched it, dripped it all around the swimming pool, and then wiped the paint off. So you had some white residue that was on top of the concrete. I went and talked with the maintenance supervisor at that particular property and essentially discovered that the maintenance supervisor, we have a service that handles our swimming pool. And I talked with him a little bit more about it, and what we ended up discovering by looking at and reviewing the logs of the vendor, that the calcium reading was extremely high. And what that indicates is that water that gets splashed out of the pool or carried out of the pool, it's evaporating on the surface of the concrete and leaving behind calcium chloride. Looks like salt, white stains that, while they do rinse off, they're completely unnecessary, because what we ended up doing was identifying the fact that the vendor was not paying attention to calcium hardness. Now, without getting into the big chemical and chemistry lesson that this teaches, it teaches the fact that if we have a vendor or somebody else doing things and maintaining our swimming pool, are we double checking to ensure that the vendors are doing what is required? I mean, think about it with your landscaper. If you hire a company to do your landscaping around your property and you begin to notice that behind a particular building, they're not cutting the grass, well, do you say something to that landscaper? Or is it a situation that you just ignore it and don't even look behind that building? I kind of got a feeling that that's not the case. In other words, we're paying attention and we're communicating with our vendors. I've actually found this over the years that that quite frequently we hire a swimming pool vendor, a swimming pool contractor to come in and service our pool, and then we kind of leave them alone. We don't double check after them. We don't verify. So that's actually one of the early things that we need to do. In other words, double check on our vendors. Look at their logs. Verify that they are doing what they need to do, and it's all within the prescribed parameters. And if you're unfamiliar with what those prescribed parameters are, there are services all over the internet, let alone the CPO program, Certified Pool Operator credential, that we discussed in a previous episode, that are all available and free to find. In addition, if you want even more uh, uh, specific information that you can use to quote to your vendor, look to the Model Aquatic Health Code or your local city, county, or municipality codes, because they will list every single one of those things that are required there. Not only do details matter when we're talking with our vendors, but it also matters with the physical pool itself. Now, with some experience and with some getting used to what's going on, you begin to notice what the surface of the pool looks like, just visually. Good pool water will look slightly shiny. It will be very, very clear, translucent, like cleaned glass. You will be able to see from the surface all the way down to the deep end, the main drain of the pool. In a properly maintained pool, it won't even matter, because even the oldest pools within multifamily really don't get deeper than 12 feet. And 12 feet, if we're maintaining our pool properly, it should be clear. The expectation is you will always be able to see that main drain. Oh, and by the way, remember that according to Virginia Graham Baker Act, there's supposed to be 2 main drains or some other things that are supposed to be in place for our swimming pool system to help prevent entrapment. So all of these things add up to a mindset of constant vigilance. We have to always be looking at our swimming pool. Even outside of the chemistry, even outside of the daily tasks, we have to always be paying attention to it. Once your swimming pool is up and running, do yourself a favor at your property. Show it off. And I don't mean just show it off to your residents on a tour, but maintenance supervisor, property manager. When the pool looks the way it is supposed to, have a property meeting poolside. Point out with your swimming pool, this is the way it should always look. You should see the weir, which that's the flappy part on the inside of the skimmer. That weir should never ever be right straight up or all the way flat and horizontal. It should always be at roughly a 45-degree angle with water going over the top of it. You can see when you look across the top of the water into the skimmer hole, the skimmer port. By the way, the water level, point out to your team that water level is expected to be halfway up. If it's too low, add water. If it's too high, let either splash out occur or drain some water off the pool. Point out what the surface looks like with good circulation, and then shut off the pump. Let the water settle and point out what the swimming pool looks like without good circulation. Go in the pump room. Pay attention to what the equipment sounds like. Pay attention to the surroundings. Pay attention to all of the swimming pool, and then finish up your poolside meeting reviewing what the entrance is supposed to look like when it's working properly. The whole reason for this is so that our entire team can pay attention to what a swimming pool looks like sounds like when it's operating properly. That way, we get as many eyes and ears calibrated to be aware that when it's not operating correctly, we can have that communication to either fix it or shut it down. Because at the end of the day, we are dealing with something that does have a life safety impact. The amount of diseases and germs that can come from a poorly maintained swimming pool is large. The way of preventing them, it can be done. Thank you for joining me today on this episode of The Maintenance Mindset. I'm Paul Rhodes, and I'll see you somewhere. Thank you again to AppWorks for sponsoring today's episode. Imagine carrying a digital make-ready board in your pocket with work order tracking and maintenance technician leaderboards designed to gamify the process and bring out your team's competitive edge. AppWork offers solutions to headaches that have plagued the multifamily industry for decades. Visit www.appworkco.com today.